OST 2016. This is interviews, music reviews, and more. This is The Hotter Show.
What is up, everybody? We are rolling on to you here today in episode 395 of The Hotter Show. Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very much for tuning in and clicking that play button on today's episode of the podcast. We've got an awesome episode for you here today, as I try to have on every single episode of The Hotter Show. We're sitting down with dark horror and fiction writer Matt Micheli to talk about his new book, Pornageddon. And Pornageddon is a wild ride, let's just say that. Matt and I talk all about kind of where the inspiration from the book came from, some of the reactions to it, some parts of the book, what I liked about it, the relatability of the characters, the shock factor of the scenes in the book, and some of the, obviously, the descriptive words used and things of that nature. But it's a fantastic read, and we have a great time, as always, having a chat all about it. And then, of course, end off with some wrestling talk, because that's just how we do things here anytime that Mr. Micheli graces us with his presence. So stay tuned for that. Hope you guys enjoy that conversation. Before we jump in, I want to thank everybody for their support on last week's episode of the show. My chat with Timothy John Bolton from Conversation was a really great chat. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Big shout out to Conversation, who, as you guys are hearing this, are now on their North American spring tour. Be safe, boys. Have a great time. If Conversation comes to anywhere near you, go check them out. They are absolutely awesome. Just like my chat here today with Matt Micheli, dark horror and fiction writer. Let's get into it. We got Matt Micheli back on the Hotter Show here. Just dropped a brand new, very interesting piece of fiction that we're going to be discussing here today. Matt, man, how you doing? It's good to see you.
Hey, man, I'm doing great, and good to be back on the show.
So, I don't even really know how to start this one off, man, aside from just asking, in your own words, can you give the listeners your description of your new book, Pornageddon?
Yeah, this is always difficult to ramble on forever. This is the hardest part. The book writing's easy. It's the summarizing is the tough part. No, it's basically the battle of good and evil like you've never seen. It involves porn addiction. And that's a weapon that the devil uses to try to build his army and take over the world for the end of days. And then you've got the cast of unlikely heroes, very flawed people, most of which who are addicted to porn or involved with porn in some form or another, who kind of come together to stop the end of the world. So, yeah, with the title Pornageddon, that's pretty much what you can expect. There's a lot of sexually explicit stuff. There's some funny moments. There's still people always say there's a sweetness to my characters in my writing. I think that's still in this one. So there's some heart, but yeah, definitely a wild ride. Yeah, just buckle up.
I think that's the best thing I can say to like I shared it with a friend of mine earlier, and I said, just buckle up and expect as someone who I knew what it was going into it, obviously. Like, I was like, okay, I know there's going to be some pretty I guess sexual themes, obviously, but I think I literally read the first sentence, and I think I sent you a message, and I was like, okay, we're just first sentence. It's like she's measuring a member with her arm, and I'm like, oh, okay, like we're just jumping right in.
Yeah, I really wanted to start it off with a bang. See what I did there?
Get it? Aha! Yeah. You wanted to just plow through the first.
But no, yeah, it definitely starts off fast and hard and all good stuff.
It's gonna be like this the whole time, folks.
Yeah, that was unintentional, but it worked. But yeah, each chapter is named after the character the chapter's about, or kind of from their perspective. And and I tied it in, to the Bible somewhat, almost like these people are weird disciples of some sort or something or other. So each chapter is the name of the character, and the first chapter is called The Fluffer. So you can kind of get an idea of where that's going to take you. But yeah, it definitely starts off fast. Everybody that reads that first line is like, oh man. And it doesn't really let up for a bit. It kind of goes in, but yeah, there's certain words where you could actually create a drinking game on,
yeah. First chapter. I mean, I don't really care at this, but we'll just kind of start throwing things out. Like just that first chapter, the word cock probably appears. If I had to hazard a guess, I'd probably, and this isn't me, like, it's not a slight or anything. I think it's awesome. It probably it reminded me of the Limp Bizkit song Hot Dog, where he literally says, like, if I say fuck 2 more times, it's 46 fucks in this fucked up rhyme. That's right, guys. I'm a new metal kid. Yeah. It's have to have been probably around 50 times. And I was like, I'm all in on it. I'm like, this is great. Cause it's, in that industry, if you're working as a fluffer, that character is, I would have to imagine that that's probably a pretty accurate depiction of what your daily life is like. and with that particular character, she's a nympho, she's into cocks, big time. So that's what she's focused on, what she likes. There's more to her than that, but sure, yeah,
in that
a lot
industry,
more depth.
But yeah, it is funny when you start writing something like this, and I hate repeating words, but there aren't many words that you can use for that particular word,
that piece of the human anatomy.
Yeah.
Because if you said like the proper words, it would sound almost weird. Like it'd be like, and she gripped his penis. It's like, what? That sounds weird, man.
Yeah, definitely not. No, it needs to be more straightforward and blunt for it to have impact. But, I think I threw in a couple of other words, but not many. Just go with what works and, point comes across.
Right. But then it's like, it very obviously, yes, there is that, like, I guess shock factor a little bit in the first couple of, not chapters, but like the first, I guess chapters in a way with the different character parts, which I do love how you do that because it makes it so like, right away, okay, this is, 14-1, whatever this is about. It's like you right away know, okay, this is another part of the story, especially when I think it was the deacon, some of his scenes, they ended in a really interesting way. Like the chapter part of the story, like where he's having a fantasy and then it like he snaps out of it and then it goes into the other chapter. Like I thought that was so cool, especially when it's like, then you're getting one of the other characters right away. But to go back, like with that first bit of the book, I was kind of like, okay, this is interesting. There's the fluffer, there's the white girl ruiner who we meet as well, who right when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay. Like he's the biggest, he is the cock of the walk indeed. And
it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah. Well, that's what's so fun is like this whole thing is, what's every guy's dream?
Yeah.
Everyone who doesn't have 11-inch cock is like, oh man, I would, what a gift. And he's just like, dude, it's a curse. Like,
it's a curse. Yeah.
It's a curse of the girth, man. It's not all that's cracked up to be like, but then like right away, there's depth to him as a character, not just the fact that, there's so much more to him than he's, the biggest male porn star in the industry or whatever. And very quickly, you start to paint a picture of, hey, these are characters that you can kind of start to relate to in a way. But then also very quickly, I think it's like the third or fourth one. I can't go off the top of my head right now, but it's like we see like the troubled servant pretty quickly. And then it's like, oh shit, okay, this has quickly become it almost felt like I was reading and I'm just like, okay, like we're getting into some stuff here. This is cool. And then it was like, oh shit, like he's murdering someone because he wants to, like, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it quickly establishes like, oh, the Isabella Jane. Yeah. No, yeah.
Bella Jane. Yeah.
Amilla Jane, excuse me. It's like, oh, like there's more going on here. Like it's not just she's the most popular porn star. It's like very quickly we get like, oh, here's where like the underlying horror elements and splatter is starting to come in, like very, very quickly.
Yeah. Trying to piece it all together, getting it, it was a little bit longer work for me. So it's an actual novel. Most of my books are novellas. So I typically go in completely blind without any outline or anything. This one I was kind of halfway using an outline and trying to piece timing of the different characters and stuff. And I thought getting some of the horror element in there a little more quickly was good, and then kind of spreading that out. But yeah, there's I love that my readers say they, after they read one of my books, they always go, I didn't expect that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and because I try to keep things as vague as possible, so you don't really know really what's going on, except that men are really addicted to porn and certain individuals within porn. And then it kind of starts, going beyond that.
It starts to unravel quite quickly, where it's like, oh, there's not just like, there's a very heavy and probably for some people relatable scene. Obviously, when we kind of get to know Roy for the first time, where he's watching scenes with her, and his wife catches him standing over the bathroom sink. It's like, oh shit, like this is then his reaction, it's like, oh, there's more going on here than just, he's not just like embarrassed. It's like he's almost just ignoring everything. And and feeling guilty, like he is cheating on his wife. He was hiding something from her, so I guess it's the same, you'll have the same feeling. But that dynamic, that's husband and wife scenes are always tough to write, especially if there's any rifts between them, just because I'm married and, love my wife. But I always put it as if it were me and her. So it's a part there when you're doing it. But yeah, it's definitely relatable for some, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. I have never been in that situation myself, but I can imagine if you were, standing at the bathroom sink, having just achieved manhood, and all of a sudden my wife walks in.
Like, that look on her face where like, she's not happy when she steps in.
Like, did you, first off, it's like, did you just, you did in this, okay. That's where we brush our teeth, man. Like, come on, dude. Like, what's wrong with you? But then also the shame and everything, and porn addiction and that, like, it's something that doesn't get talked about a lot, but it's obviously something that you tackle at length in the book. Like, it's like, it can take people to a really dark place. So the fact that we see that quite quickly, even like with the character of Benjamin, like where he clearly there's, some other stuff going on there where like, he's isolating himself and he has some other issues, but then also it becomes apparent like, oh, he is extremely addicted to like, and it's something that like I don't think it gets talked about a lot, where a lot of even the average person who can seem totally on the level, even a deacon, can fall into that. And not just because there's more going on behind the scenes with the devil being involved in that, but it's like, I guess in a way it all kind of can be said that it's kind of all still related, because depending on how you look at things, porn really can be used as a tool by the devil. So well, you look at
what's more powerful than sex? There's not much. And what has more reach than porn? There's really nothing. I mean, if you look at downloads and videos, and I mean, it's millions upon millions. There's more time spent on porn than pretty much anything else, maybe with the exception of, say, Facebook scrolling or something like that. But but yeah, so, that would be a great tool for the devil. And of course, you hear about the lust and all that good stuff when you're on that side. And that's, I just figured it was a perfect combination. And me personally, I'm kind of middle of the road. I'm not anti-porn. I'm not pro porn. I think, um, I do see that, the deleterious effects of it though, and people that get addicted. I guess anything in excess can be bad.
Right. Yeah.
And if you have an addictive personality, I mean, it's basically like and now it's on our phones or wherever we want. So it's a dopamine button in our hand. We can just constantly release that stream of dopamine. And I don't think that's good for anybody because it kills ambition. I mean, if you're satisfied sexually and you're a young man, and you're in your parents' basement or wherever you're at, in your apartment, you're less likely to go out and strive to do things. You know what I mean? If you're constantly satiated sexually. But so yeah, there's a lot of bad things that come along with it. I mean, and just with technology nowadays in general, and of course we're on technology, so there's obviously value there. And without it, we wouldn't be able to communicate the way we do and share information. And indie horror book writers, we'd get we wouldn't get any book sales because nobody. So there's a lot of value to it, but yeah, it's just the phone in your hand or constantly on the screens, and then when you throw porn at it, it's 10 times worse. I think I'm just getting older, so I'm grumpy about all that shit.
Well, I do understand where it's like it's like, I think the joke is you can like literally open your phone and press a button 3 or 4 times and you can probably find porn. Like it's like,
absolutely,
and it's getting even more crazy with like OnlyFans and stuff like that. And like,
oh, well, that's the gateway to porn. You know what I mean? And I wrote a story about that, and it was called "Children of the Porn," and it's been in a couple of books now. But it's basically about an influencer and just how far influencers will go. For those likes and stuff and that attention. I mean, attention for humans it's a type of currency, and unfortunately, we give attention to people that don't always need it or for reasons that we probably shouldn't. So if you're flamboyant or you're showing your ass, yeah, you're going to get likes and followers and all that stuff. I mean, not me personally, I wouldn't get any followers.
Listen, don't sell yourself short. Come on.
But and girls can get on their TikTok and just do some silly little dance, and it's like, yeah, you're cute, but there's more to you, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the OnlyFans thing, and I started, to each his own. Like I'm not pro or anti OnlyFans, but I do think it is kind of a gateway because, how far will you go? You're making money on showing your body, and that's fine. I mean, heck yeah, if you got it, flaunt it, I guess. But
look, if you can make a living and pay your rent showing pictures of your butthole, by all means, like that's, let's be honest. Like,
yeah, it never worked for me.
Yeah. I was just about to say that. I mean, I gave it a shot and, I had 0 subscribers for a couple of years, but but in all seriousness though, it's like, if you are in a good place with it and you are you have a healthy life outside of that and you want to do things like that's awesome. Like whatever, whatever makes you happy, but it can also very quickly lead to, the adult industry in general,
Yeah. And maybe you're okay with it leading there, I mean, I don't have anything against porn stars or anything.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, it seems like a slippery slope, I guess. And you could get probably wrapped into some folks that you may not want to be wrapped in with. But anyway, not to just talk about, depression and addiction and porn, all that shit. You want something fun, huh?
Yeah, but it is. But so with
technology.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's interesting is like we see, obviously with, the involvement of Benjamin and that once, we start to see how things are going to turn out and the relationship that he has with his parents and stuff. Like one thing that like you mentioned earlier, how like you always have this wonderful ability to make your characters really relatable and likable pretty quickly. Like even someone like Benjamin, who like, unfortunately, I feel like most men when they're younger probably go through a bit of a phase, or at least some of us, where you have a moment like that where you're kind of like, he knows, okay, I've got to like maybe change some stuff in my life. I feel like I'm getting stagnant. He's getting mad at his parents and stuff. It's like, even though he's, you know, he's a grown man, it's not like he's a teenager. Like,
yeah, no, so, he kind of acts that way though. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I feel like some people at least can relate to like feeling that stagnation, if that's even a word.
Stagnation. Yeah,
it is now. Sure, it is now. I feel like most people can relate to that. And, you know, you instantly make, even like I mentioned, like someone like David, who like, he's instantly a likable character, not just because of, you know, the obvious things, but.
Those, it's funny. Those two characters have been getting the most love. Mm-hmm. So Benjamin or Benny, I've had several people say that was my favorite character. And I think, you know, just the fact that he's flawed in many ways. And as you continue reading, he's flawed in more and more ways, you know, you're like,
even physically, like with, I can't remember like the issue he has, the
skin dandruff.
Yes. Like even that, I'm like
everywhere. And
I'm like, hey bro, what's up?
He's got the birthmark on his face, like Gorbachev.
Yeah.
He's got, and I won't name everything and no spoilers, but yeah, he's been in a pretty isolated place. You know, all of his insecurities and stuff. I mean, it makes it really hard for him to date women. So he's kind of just lived that life of isolation and done his own thing and been kind of resentful for it, but, you know, totally flawed. But I tried to leave in the hope for redemption with each character. And I think they kind of do at some point. And then, yeah, Dee was a real popular character. Of course, one of the ladies on my live launch party last night was, she's like, my favorite character was Dee, and all of us are like, of course he is. Yeah. You know, yeah. Of course
yeah. Okay.
No, not because of that. It's like, yeah.
Sure. Well, I'll be honest. I'm pretty sure that Dee was my favorite character as well. And I'll tell you why, because again, I don't want to give anything away, but like the scene he has with the person working at the pharmacy, just that whole interaction. I'm like, here's this guy who is like legit, like the biggest porn star in the world, seemingly has all this confidence that comes with having an 11-inch member. At least I would assume. I don't know. Yeah. I would assume. Yeah. But and you watch the interaction he has with a real woman in front of him who is not there to have sex with him for money or anything. And he's like stumbling over his words and he's all nervous. And I'm like, oh, he's just like me. Like like, that would be me in that situation. Like, it's just,
he's just, you know, going over different scenarios of what would happen if, you know, when he says different things and stuff. And yeah, he's stressed out about it and anxious. But yeah, he was a really cool character to write. But yeah, you know, when you mentioned relatable, I think what I'm really good at is the dialogue between people. And I think, you know, folks always say it's like they're standing in the room with these people and watching this play out. So I think if you can create real dialogue from what that character would actually say in real life, in that situation, and then there's a little funny banter and, you know, mess ups and stuff mixed in there, because none of us are perfect. I think it adds to that element of relatability. But yeah, it's kind of a sweet little story mixed in there. And yeah, I'm assuming you could kind of picture, like I'm picturing him in line and the girl behind the counter.
I was just about to say, I genuinely felt like I was standing behind him in line with my prescription, just going like, oh bro, like, come on, man, you got this, dude. Come on. Just ask. And then finally, I think she like takes charge and she's just like, I'm just going to write my number on I have been in that situation where I saw a friend of mine fumbling over his words. And finally the girl was like, can you just ask for my number so we can move on? Like, like, dude.
And he's like, yes, thank you. Thank goodness. Yeah.
And hey, he married her. So, you know, there you go. You can cool. Still get there, boys.
That's it, man. Yeah.
Which is great. But one thing I wanted to ask just in reading this, just to kind of get a little serious for a second, obviously with the book, there's a lot of, you know, dark themes, and then talking about the pretty, for lack of a better term, wild dialogue within, like, regarding porn and stuff like that. Obviously, it's very much a central theme. Did you have any difficulty in writing the book as far as, like, with how in depth some of these scenes get? Like, was there any kind of awkwardness? I know when you're at the end of the book, you talk about how, like, you were thanking your family, you know, even though I'll never let them read this, like, was there any kind of like this is a really cool idea, but like, is it going to hit? Is it not? Was there any kind of trepidation in releasing this? Like,
boring answer. No, not really.
Cool. Okay.
You know, my biggest challenge in this was keeping my wife and daughter from my little 10-year-old little girl from getting on the computer and looking at what I'm doing. And even now with the book cover and everything, because of the title, like, I don't let her see any of it. You know, and she doesn't quite grasp it. I just like, it's very adult, you know, it's not for you.
Right.
But no, folks that know me kind of know I, for lack of a better term, I kind of shoot from the hip. Like,
yeah.
I like when people introduce me, like people within networking groups and stuff, I've heard this more than once, but they'll say, you never have to guess what he's thinking, because he'll tell you. So for me, like, writing is kind of the same way. I'm kind of just, you know, I'm like, oh, this is a cool idea for a story. Let's see where it goes. And I start writing and yeah. And, you know, there's a lot of descriptiveness in there, and then, and all that good stuff. But no, for me, no, not a challenge at all. And again, I'm not looking at, you know, obviously when I wrote this, I wasn't thinking this is going to a massive publisher and this is going to be a mainstream work of literature in every, you know, Barnes and Noble and library. You know, it's not, this type of book's very niche. It's not for, you know, not for everybody. And I usually say it's not for most, really. You know?
It's not even for most people.
Yeah, it's you know, it's people that wanted something a little bit harder, and like that sexual descriptiveness, like a little bit of shock in there. Although I don't write for shock alone. That's not me. That gets old and people can see right through that. So, you know, if the characters are, you know, as they're developing, do something kind of crazy, you know, it's fitting to them, then I'll throw it in there. And, but yeah, no, like I said, the biggest challenge is just keeping my little girl and my wife. My wife is, you know, going through her leukemia journey, has become more religious. So she's like, as she's, you know, reading the Bible or something, I'm writing a book called Pornageddon. So, you know, so I was like, this one ain't for you, honey. But I go, there's a, you know, I think there's a message in there. You know, unintentional, but I think
for sure, yeah.
Message in there.
The general message of, you know, God doesn't make mistakes, and that whole general message, it has a really nice, like, obviously we're not even going to remotely discuss the ending.
Sure.
But like, it does overall, like, when I was done, I was like, okay, like, I feel good about everything. Like, you know, like it's like, it's not just like, it's not, there's nothing that is shock value for shock value alone. Like, and I knew heading into this, okay, Matt's not that kind of writer. Like, I know there's obviously going to be some good stuff in there. And then, you know, that first chapter, I was kind of like, oh shit. Okay. Like, you know,
like, nice warm up.
Yeah. Right. It's like your little foreplay first. Like, come on, let's.
Yeah. You know, you know, and not using the God term, like God doesn't make mistakes, but it was kind of like a, you know, use what you're gifted with. And everybody's got a gift or a talent, or they're good at something. And if we can just acknowledge that and appreciate it, you know, the world would be a better place. Like if we just did what we were good, not necessarily what you were meant to do, but maybe you were meant to do it. I don't know, you know, but yeah, there's several moments in the book to where you're thinking this is a bad trait, but then that trait, you know, becomes very useful. But so that was kind of fun to tie all that stuff together. But
yeah, even with David's situations where it's something that he himself hates about himself, which every other guy in the world's like, why would you hate that? Like, you don't know until you're living it. Like walking a mile in someone's shoes. Like, there's a lot of really, and that's like, as I was reading it, like I was very much, I would kind of think like, oh man, like I guess that would suck. Like if you feel like a circus freak and whatnot. Again, I think that's why I relate so much to David, and just because his whole journey is so, you start to see him as a person, not just this, as he says, like, this circus is closed or whatever. I think it's something he says along those lines. But like, it's also just like, you see that everybody is flawed, even the deacon, even people who seem to have everything together. Like, but then everyone gets redemption, and it's just, yeah, it has a really nice overall theme, I think, and the fact that there is some religious symbolism throughout too, like it very much ties it all together really nicely. I don't want to say anything that because obviously I want people to go and check it out. And you even have some cool little references like to memes in the book with the hide your kids, hide your wives guy, which totally caught me off guard.
I don't know. I don't know how I got to that point during that little interview, but yeah, it caught the reporter and the newscaster off guard too. So that was awesome.
He just? Yeah, he did. Yeah, it's like, oh, okay.
But yeah, there's some funny moments in there. For sure. At least I found them funny when I was writing them.
Oh yeah, there was a few times I had a chuckle, and my coworker's like, "Oh, what are you eating?" I'm like, not for you. Don't worry about it.
Back away.
Something. I think I said, "Oh, it's a splatterpunk book," and she was like, "What the fuck is that?" I was like, "Don't worry about it."
And so that's Evil Cookie Publishing. So they are an extreme horror publisher. So I sent it to him. I go, I have an idea. You might potentially like it. I go, I don't know if I guess it's extreme in some different ways, right? But it's got plenty of blood and gore. But
for sure, yeah.
So it's pretty neat because this be my first venture into that subgenre of horror. So I'm excited to get some new readers and stuff. But yeah, every book of mine is so different, and this doesn't change that trend. But I love that one of my favorite reviews, and it was for the book called Scratched. I don't think you've read that one yet, but it's basically like the Real Housewives meet the Chupacabra. It's like these pretentious social elites, and these folks gentrify a small town and destroy it and push all the townspeople out and take over with high-priced coffee bars and martini bars, yoga studios, all that kind of shit. And then Chupacabra stayed behind, and he's, taking care of business. But one of the reviewers, I guess he was making his way through my library, and he got to that one and read it and reviewed it. And his first line was, "Well, things just keep getting weirder," because it's like each book is so different. So you don't know, really what style it's going to be written in. Although, he did mention, and other people have mentioned it too. They said the character development and the sweetness of the characters and the writing, he goes, that kind of carries over into each book. And like I said, I hope that carries over to this one too. I think it did, because I think you can get behind some of the cast, and have those, those heartfelt moments there, pulling for people. Completely different than anything I've written. And the one I'm working on now is completely different on the other end of the spectrum from this one. So, it's just, that's me, I guess.
I mean, you just look at considering like the last time we had a conversation, we were talking about, a coming of age tale, and like based around like teenagers and stuff. And now it's like those vastly different worlds. But then also, like you said, there is very much that sweetness in the characters and the development. And like, so it's very much has that Michelli flair where you're not like, it feels like a completely different author. It doesn't even feel like the same person wrote this. Like, yes, it's very different subject matter, but the core of what at least I enjoy for sure about your writing, and I know a lot of other people do as well, where, you can start to care about these characters quickly. You can start to relate to them. You're going to get some pretty awesome descriptive horror and gore in certain scenes and stuff, like without it being like too much. I think. Yeah. It's like, I think sometimes it's like, okay, do we really need this much gore like all the time? Like,
No. And you kind of, we've talked about it before, but I try not to have too many moments. So then I'd try to make the moments that I do have really count. People get desensitized to stuff, and especially in the extreme horror where people are like, okay, I read that. That wasn't that sick. What else do you got, kind of thing? And it's like people are just pushing the envelope. Like, okay, how far can you go until it's just everybody's kind of on the same path with eating babies and shit? I don't know. It's like, so I don't do.
You got to kill a child at least once a chapter to keep things interesting.
Yeah, and to each his own. Some people love that kind of stuff, but I've never been a real gore hound, I guess. Like, I don't like the gory movies, Saw. I don't really care for.
Yeah,
like,
same here. Never,
and the blood and the guts and all that gross stuff. And cannibalism is not really my thing. So I don't really write that much about that. But yeah, the moments, again, they do count. So there's some blood and some heart-wrenching moments in there too. Hopefully I always try to make the kill scenes count, but I think they have impact. Each one, you kind of get a taste for the victim.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's one in particular that I really don't want to, because it's to me, it was one of the most pivotal points in the whole book. But the one kill scene, with just, I'll say the servant is the one involved. And he, like, this kill scene, it immediately raises the stakes up to like, oh, like this is now getting to that next level, literally, where he, some stuff happens and you're like, oh shit, this is real now. This is
going full on.
The world is coming to an end. Like, some shit is going down. We're seeing, obviously throughout the book, it talks about like wildfires and a bunch of horrible stuff happening. We hear about it anytime the news comes on. There's all these murders and like, there's so much going on. But then in that one moment, it's like, it really clicks, like, oh shit, like this is maybe a moment of reprise for this guy. And then it's like, no, never mind. Like, let's go full tell.
Well, that's kind of like that particular moment you're talking about. It's like his last shot at humanity, I guess. What's going through his head. It's almost like the end of his life as he knew it anyway. And then yeah, some big things happen, but
and porn is just too powerful. Can't tell.
Yeah. It's like he tried to resist, and he just could not. It was fun.
Yeah, it's overall, man. Like I think for me, like I described it very much as, like, in short, it's an insane, overtly sexual, sometimes maybe a little uncomfortable in moments, but then overall, it's such a stellar story with characters that people are going to love and relate to, all wrapped up in this just really well done, awesome tale. And I think that even if people are a little hesitant because of like Pornageddon, like what the hell? It's like, yo, give this a chance, understand what you're getting into, that it is going to be, there's some shocking subject matter and stuff, but it's not, again, it's not shocking for the sake of shocking. There's so much wonderful storytelling going on in this. I cannot recommend it enough to people.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. One of my folks that blurbed for it, and I was very grateful for the folks that did. I reached out to a few authors that I highly respect, and they're doing big things in indie horror. And one of them said it was, he goes, I don't know if he intended on doing it, or if I intended on setting out to make a splatter porn version of The Stand. But then he's like, but I think you did a hell of a job. And I've heard that kind of come full circle a couple of times, comparing it to The Stand. And I'm like, anytime I get compared to Stephen King, I'll take it. Now, granted, the book is about 1/10 in size, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll take it. So yeah, I guess that's what people could expect. The Stand with a lot more splatter and porn, I guess. And there you go.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, man, it's always a pleasure to get to talk with you. I could talk to you for another hour and a half about a couple different things. The book is out now, guys. Go check it out. I'll have a link down below. But really quick, before I let you go, Matt, I just want to ask, What right now, if anything, have you been enjoying in the horror world? Like any movies you've seen lately that you've really liked? Like, give us a quick recommendation, maybe, or anything like that. Or
Yeah, and I'm terrible with movie names. The Cabin at the End of the World. I don't know if that's what they called the movie, but
the one with Dave Bautista and
yeah.
yes, I think it's Cabin in the Woods or something like
Cabin
that.
in the Woods. Okay, so Cabin at the End of the World is the Paul Tremblay novel. That movie was great. I really liked Nope.
Nope was good. Yeah,
Nope was cool. Just a very different take on that. And then I think is it Where the World Ends or When the World Ends? It's on Netflix with Julia Roberts and
yes, yeah.
And that one was really cool because I thought they really built up the tension and suspense throughout that whole movie, and then it ended kind of flatly. It was just like, done, right? And me, I'm like, that's kind of how I end my book sometimes. You know? I was like, that's right up my alley. So that one was really cool. Other than that, I'm trying to think. That's probably as far as the movies. Probably the ones that, off the top of my head, those are the ones that come up. For books, I primarily read indie horror. It's hard to keep up with all of the friends I've made, so I try to read through as much as I can. But I don't, as a writer, I don't have as much time to read as I'd like, because a lot of times when I have time, I'm writing. But recently, I've read. He goes by PC3, so I've read Patrick C. Harrison III, some of his stuff. He's got some really cool grindhouse stuff. There's a book called Vampire Nuns Behind Bars, which is kind of wild.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's got some other ones that are definitely more splatterpunk, where I got to skip a few pages. I won't lie, because I'm like, oh man, I can't get through that. You know, it's just ugh. But he's a good writer. He's a really talented guy. Duncan Ralston also been kind of getting through his works. John Steffens, another one. And these are folks that I kind of got into as I was writing Pornageddon, because it's kind of more in line with that. So a little more extreme. But yeah, there's a whole bunch. I could name them forever. I think we're I like to call it kind of the rebirth of indie horror right now. There's so much talent and so many good books out there, as well as good publishers, indie publishers. So it's really come a long way from, say, 10 years ago. So yeah, people read indie horror.
Read it, support it. There's so much just wonderful content out there in the indie horror genre in general. There's so much great stuff happening there, and that's something that even for myself, I like to explore. And, I want to get more indie horror authors on the show and stuff too, because it's always great. And, it's always a good time chatting with you, man. I know we didn't really get to talk wrestling, but as we are recording this, WrestleMania is this weekend. Just real quick, are you going to be watching it all, or?
Gosh. You know what? I may throw it on. I haven't followed in a while.
Yeah.
And I don't like how they split it into 2 evenings.
Yeah, I don't either. Because
I used to have a big party. I used to have a big, like, themed WrestleMania party, and we'd cook food and dress up and stuff, and it was kind of cool. But now it's split into 2 nights. He kind of kills it, But yeah, I'll check it out. I did get my little girl in on the old WCW Nitros from like late 90s.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, there's where like Hulk Hogan's battling the Giant and all that stuff. And there was one with monster trucks, and then the Giant gets thrown over the building, and suddenly my daughter's like freaking out, like, oh my God, is he dead? And I'm like, oh, this is great.
It's like, no, this is Paul White. He's fine. He's
yeah, he's fine. You're watching this show called The Big Show on the
Netflix, Big Show.
Whatever. Yeah, she watches that show. But yeah, I was getting her into, the Sting and Flair. Boy, she hates Flair like I did when I was a kid.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's back then it was, I think folks still thought it was somewhat real, or at least we hoped it was. Nowadays it's kind of out. Like, everybody knows it's just entertainment show, and it kind of loses a little bit for me. I mean, it's still fun to watch, but I don't follow it like I used to. But how about you? Parties?
We got the we're getting the gang together for Saturday night, so we'll see what happens. But I don't know what's going to happen if there's so much Cody Rhodes finishing his story and all that stuff. But The Rock being involved now, like, it's cool. There's a lot of really interesting stuff happening right now. But you said something there that was interesting, like with I always say this to people, and I've been saying it a lot in the horror world too, where like, if you can just suspend your disbelief for even a few minutes and just enjoy something for what it is, not overthink things, I feel like you can enjoy things a lot more. Because something's like, oh, well, this story, it's like, oh, well, this wouldn't happen or this, that, or whatever. It's like, oh, it'd scare me. It's like, dude, just shut up and just read the story, enjoy it for what it is. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine. But like, just like, don't overthink things, man. Just have fun. Yes, of course, that guy who is, choke slamming another human being. Like, yes, okay. Yes, the guy who, puts his arm in a sock and then hits a dude in the face, okay. Yes, obviously we're having fun here. It's entertainment. Let's just enjoy it for what it is.
I remember being a kid and always questioning, like, so if they do like an elbow drop and land on the guy, no problem. But if the guy moves and they land on the mat, it's like they're hurt. Like, and it's like, why is he hurt?
Listen, man, have you ever hit your elbow off a wall?
Yeah.
Get out of here. You're shut down for the afternoon. Like,
or like the suplex. It's like, why is only one guy hurt? That guy landed on his back too, man.
Coming off the top rope. It's like, you would be messed up for weeks. Like, what? If I jumped off the top rope onto another human being, I would be able to walk for like 3 or 4 days.
Buckle and
just spend your disbelief
away from those guys. They're awesome. And I have friends that have been in the indie wrestling circuit and stuff too, so it's really cool. But I'm hoping next time AEW rolls around, I'll get tickets. My buddy is my best friends with what's their name? They've changed their names. One of the tag teams on there, like big deals. And he used to be in the indie circuit. And so we got to go see WrestleMania and all that stuff when it came nearby, which was pretty neat. Worked a convention, hung out with all the wrestlers. I don't know if we talked before.
Well, I think we did a little bit. Yeah. That's awesome though. Yeah.
So I met a bunch of people. He's like, yeah, you'll meet some of the talent. You might meet some of the talent. And I was like, okay. So I guess some low budget wrestlers.
This is Jim Bob. He's Jim Bob. It's like, okay, cool, man.
No, but then I worked with Hacksaw Jim Duggan all day. Yeah. I was right next to Diamond Dallas Page, and X-Pac was there, the Steiner brothers, Sting, like all these people. I'm like, these aren't like you saying talent. Why don't you just say like the stars that are or had been stars? But that was a really cool experience. Wrestling is just one of those fun, just kind of break away from reality, and it's silly as all get out, but it's still enjoyable. Makes it fun,
Yeah, there's a lot. Like I said, there's a lot. I feel like there's so many similarities between. Obviously, they're very different things, but as far as horror fans and wrestling fans, sometimes I'll talk to them and I'm like, there's a lot of similarities in the fandoms for how people are, and just I know this is ridiculous, but like just give it a chance. Like it's just like, okay, I know this dude's doing okay, yes, I know he's slapping his thigh, but like just give it just give it a chance. I know this guy just did a quadruple flip and it's just completely unrealistic, but just give it a chance. Like
give it a chance, man. What is kind of cool about the pay-per-views though, it does seem like they really ramp it up and they're actually hitting each other a little more. Like I never really caught on until later in life, but you're watching, you're like, holy cow, that hurt, man. Like
some of those dudes, if you want to watch someone just manhandle another human being, anytime Gunther's on the screen, Gunther's the current Intercontinental Champion. He's the longest reigning now, big Austrian dude. Yeah. Anytime that dude is in the ring, like you can hear him just smacking the shit out of everybody, and it's like
no thanks.
I don't need that, man. I'm good. Like I don't.
We were at a little independent wrestling thing years ago, me and a few buddies, and I remember one of the heels was out in the audience, and he was like, "Oh, you want to slap me? Go ahead and slap me." And this dude did a backhand chop across his chest, and then he like coughed like he was having a heart attack, and his chest was all red, and he actually left. Like he walked out and left the area, and we were laughing. We're like, "Holy cow, that dude just slapped that dude out of the ring, basically."
He's probably like, shit, dude, it's a work.
Breath. Yeah, he lost his breath and his chest was all just inflamed instantly. We're like, oh my God, that dude nailed him. Like he didn't walk, he leaves the whole thing. I was like, oh man, it's the little things, man. That was awesome. Like we'll never forget that moment because it was so funny, you know.
It's the little things you got to enjoy.
You gotta watch for the good, man. It's there, you know.
Yeah. No, for sure. You have to, because there's so much stuff you can enjoy out there if you just don't overthink things, allow yourself to enjoy stuff. Well, Matt, dude, it's always a pleasure getting to chat with you, man. Everybody go check out Pornageddon. Again, I'll have links down below in the description of this episode. Matt, man, always a pleasure, dude. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh man, TJ, thank you so much, brother. I wish you the best, man. Yeah, anytime you want me on, man, I love talking with you. So yeah, please stay in touch. Of course, we follow each other and talk here and there, but yeah, always a pleasure, brother.
All right, folks, there you have it, my chat with Matt Michelli. Be sure to check out the description of this podcast for a link to his socials and links to his brand new book that, of course, we did discuss, Pornageddon. Fantastic read. Do not let the whole porn sexual thing scare you away from it. It is a brilliant, brilliant book, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Great relatable characters, fun story, underlying of redemption, and really has something to say with it, which I was not expecting. So really fantastic read. Big shouts again to Matt for coming on the show. Of course, we had to sneak in some wrestling talk at the end there. Always have to. Always a great time getting to chat with Matt Michelli. Thank you guys so very much for tuning into this episode. It truly means the world to me to have your guys' support. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave a rating if you haven't yet. Ratings help this show grow, and I truly appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe, leave a like if you can, comment and let me know what you thought of this episode. And if you've read Pornageddon, let me know what you thought of it. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you want to go a little further in supporting The Hotter Show, consider joining The Hotter Show Patreon, where you will help support this show financially and all the things that goes into making this show happen, as well as upgrades and things of that nature. And you'll also get access to the private Discord server, live streams, things of that nature, exclusive content. And also, you will get a shout out on every single episode of The Hotter Show, just like I'm about to do right now, to all of my hotheads. We, of course, have Roden Komori, Wolf Delta Pi, CM Peters, Jason Reese from Jaybird Digital Arts, Terry Enchanted Hotter, Brandon Bowden, Neil Skarupa, and Ian Hall. Thank you guys so very much for the support and being hotheads. It truly means the world to me. More to come with the Hotter Show Patreon. Obviously, with Tapes Trepidation becoming a public show, it's no longer on the Hotter Show Patreon. The old episodes are up there. I'm not going to pull those down or anything because it's cool piece of history, stuff like that. But more to come for the Hotter Show Patreon. I'm working on some stuff. And if there's content you would like to see me do on the Patreon that would maybe help convince you to become a patron, let me know. Would love to hear from you guys about it and what you would like to see from me. With that, I'm going to sign off here today. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in. Go support Matt Micheli and Pornageddon, and I'll catch you next time right here on The Hotter Show. Take it easy, guys.